Hello Reddit readers, today we have hidden stories on the timeline. I will not detain you anymore. Like and subscribe to the channel of pleasant viewing. Story 1 from user Crumpet Boots. I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 3 on my 9th birthday. My grandma made a birthday cake for me, which was big enough for us all to share at the family party. Since there was so much food, we had plenty of leftover cake for the next few days, which I was only allowed to eat a little bit of when no one was around. I snuck into the kitchen and ate a couple slices of the leftover cake. Plus, I picked huge chunks of the icing off. It looked pretty haphazard by the time I snuck away again. My parents soon found the remains of the cake since I'm diabetic. They didn't suspect that it was me who picked at the leftovers. I was usually a very well-behaved kid. They blamed it on our rather chubby cat and promptly deemed it unacceptable for human consumption. It was a believable scenario because she had stolen human food in the past. Sadly, they threw the rest of the cake out. I could never own up to it because I would have been in trouble for compromising my blood sugar levels and for being greedy. My old cat never ratted me out for letting her take the blame. Though thanks Molly Rip edited I'm a woman, and this was the year 2000 before the medical technology we have now. Back then I only checked my blood glucose at mealtimes, so the crime wouldn't have been evident until the next morning. And that's only if I was honest about my blood glucose level. There was no such thing as sliding scale dosage back then. So eating more cake was very much a bad idea, hence only being allowed a little bit at it too. It was sitting out on the kitchen table and hadn't been wrapped up and put away. Yet LOL, it was butter icing, which made the cat theory a bit more believable. Edit 3, we didn't have such easy access to info, like cats' taste receptors back then. So this didn't occur to my parents. Story 2 from user from the interweb Zad. I was about 10 years old and was pretending to be sick to avoid going to school. This was the 1980s, so the old school glass tube mercury-filled thermometers were still a thing. My dad was getting ready to leave for work as I worked my magic to convince my mom to let me stay home for the day. Neither one of them was having it. I persisted out of frustration. My mom grabbed the thermometer and put it under my tongue. I knew it would read 986, and this was my only shot to avoid school for the day. Both of my parents stepped out of the room for a moment. I looked over and saw my dad's piping hot cup of coffee sitting on the counter awaiting his morning commute. I quickly dipped the thermo into the hot Java. It instantly shattered, emptying the toxic mercury into the coffee, along with tiny shards of glass. I panicked in my mind. There were only a couple possible outcomes. My dad dies of heavy metal poisoning and a lacerated esophagus. Or I fess up to what I did. I could hear them coming around the corner, about to return to the kitchen. At the last possible second, I swatted my dad's mug off the kitchen counter, smashing it on the floor, creating a coffee explosion in my mom's freshly cleaned kitchen. They burst in the kitchen aghast at the mess I created. I reply with a flurry of sorries and apologize profusely for being clumsy. My dad is furious because now he won't have coffee on his way to work. My mom is pissed and she starts cleaning up the mess in the chaos. Everyone forgets about my claims of illness. I slipped the remainder of the broken thermo into the trash and went to the bus stop, saving my father from a horrible death, at least in my mind at the time. Until this day, I have never told anyone about this. Story 3 from user I am Stormcat. I collect antique glassware. Consequently, I frequent thrift stores, one particularly cold January day. Years and years ago, I was at my local large national thrift store that I won't name because they've become a monster. As usual, I was looking through the glassware which they had displayed directly across the aisle from children's clothing. A family of 4 was there. Mother, father, and 2 daughters. They were looking at winter coats and boots. The youngest had picked out the loudest pink glittery coat I have seen in my entire life. For whatever reason, their card wouldn't work at the register. I was in line behind them. I heard the mother remark, "I was sure our benefits went on today. Girls, we may have to wait on your coats because daddy needs the boots for his new job." I don't have enough money for boots and coats, and I can get the card to work as cashier. One kept trying their card. Cashier 2 offered to check out my purchase at the register on the other side. I told her to put their order on mine and to not mention it. She gave me a conspiratorial smile and nodded as I gathered my things and left. I heard her say, "Let me try my machine." Sometimes that one is so finicky satisfied, that I had released some positive energy into the world. I went home and never thought anything more of it. Until the next week, I stopped by after school, care one late afternoon to pick up my youngest daughter. The kids were out on the playground. My daughter came running up to me with another little girl in tow, whom she described as her new best friend. The girl told me that she was new to the school. Their family had recently moved to our town because her father got a new job here because his old job closed. It was then I noticed the pink, glittery coat. True to her word, my daughter has been best friends with that girl since that day. I've become friends with the girl's mother and father because of her friendship with my daughter. The father quickly rose in the ranks of our local factory. He's now a manger. The mother and I have run fundraisers for various local charities, and at one point, we worked at the same place. She doesn't know that I helped her family when they were at their lowest point, and she never will. Story 4 from user Dianachick. Years ago, and my stepdad was in the throes of dementia, and it was pretty bad. His wedding anniversary to my mom was coming up, and I knew my mom was feeling down. So I went to the jewelry store and picked out a beautiful bracelet and a lovely card from him. I took him aside when my mom wasn't home and told him it was their wedding anniversary coming up. He said he didn't get her anything because he didn't know. I said it was okay. I had gone to the store and picked up a bracelet and a card, and I got him to sign it. He started crying. He said this was the nicest thing anyone has ever done for him. We sat and had a little cry together. Their anniversary was the next day, so I showed him where I hid it, but I knew he'd probably forget, so I told him I would come over the next day to visit. I came over the next day, and my mom had given him a gift and a card. So I prompted him and said, "Oh, where did you put my mom's gift?" He just looked at me confused and said, "I don't know." I said, "I think I remember," and I went upstairs to get it. When I brought it downstairs, my mom was confused. She knew he couldn't have gotten there on his own, and because he kept losing his wallet, she had previously taken his wallet away with his cards and hid it somewhere. I hadn't accounted for this. I told her that one day when she had gone out grocery shopping with her friend, him and I had gone to the mall and he had picked it out for her. But my mom was upset because his dementia was so bad. She couldn't understand how he was able to pick this out and where he had gotten the money to do it. I lied and said I had reminded him of the anniversary. He had some money stuck away in a drawer and that he wanted to get her something, but she was questioning her own sanity. And if his dementia was as bad as she thought it was, if he was able to pull this off. I ended up confessing that I had indeed picked it out, but that he had asked me to during a lucid moment and had paid for it. Although I planned on taking the secret to my grave, I felt like I had to tell her for her own sanity. Story 5 from user Galactic Marmalade. TLDR farted in class, blamed it on my brother. I went to a small high school with my twin brother, and as such, we were in many of the same classes. We were taking a test or quiz or some such, where silence was a requirement. I shit you not. It was so utterly quiet in that classroom that you could hear the asthmatic kid breathing from across the room. Students were forbidden from leaving the classroom for the duration of said test to prevent cheating. I had recently taken up drinking coffee in the mornings, and as such, had begun experiencing some of the rather more unfortunate side effects of this new routine. I had made it until about 10 minutes before the bell rang, when I felt it. The damning gurgling in my bowels of the fart. I was not a popular kid in school, female and undiagnosed neurodivergent. I dealt with bullies on the regular. I knew without a doubt that to release my anal salute would be a social suicide. I would never have any hope of recovering from. I squeezed my ass cheeks together with all my might and prayed to every god I could think of that I would just make it to the bell when the noise of students changing class would cover my audible sin. Alas, I was not so fortunate. I expected a sudden explosion of noise similar to that of a whoopee cushion, followed the everlasting shame that comes from passing gas in high school. What I did not expect was the ear-splitting, high-pitched squeak that emitted slowly from my rear. For a solid 7 seconds, I did not react. I hoped that somehow no one had noticed it was me. I prepared myself for humiliation I was certain would follow. There was a long moment of excruciating silence. Suddenly, the class clown pointed a finger at my extremely popular brother and shouted, "It was Joe." The classroom erupted into teasing and laughter, as my poor brother, now bright red, vehemently denied the charge. A classmate even remarked that the responsible party must have had a tight ass, which only contributed to the hysterics and my brother's tomato-like complexion. It has been a little under 10 years since this fateful day. To be honest, I doubt my brother would even remember it, but I still have yet to confess. Maybe he'll come clean at our 10-year reunion. Edit Tel Dr. Story 6 from user Boss Galaga. I'll start by saying that well before this happened, my wife had begun telling me that her driver's side automatic window didn't always come back up, and some nights we'd leave it parked with the window down. It would be fine the next morning. I'll get it fixed when I have time. Was probably said a few times. Well, one day I've got her car and I go to one of the car wash places where you drive up pay credit, and it pulls you through. The car wash, I put down the window, chose the wash, swiped the credit card. The screen lit up and warned me to put the car in N and don't touch the brakes. No problem, I know the routine. Then I hit the window switch and nothing happens. Window is stuck fully down. Then the chain drive starts moving under the car and it's panic time screaming. I decided to try and back out, but the chain drive under the car had found my wheel and started to pull me through into the wash tunnel. Attempting reverse caused the chain drive to build up tension as the car wasn't moving with it, and at some point, it pulled itself from under the wheel, causing the car to jump 4 inches and the car wash to make some kind of gunshot sound, while I skipped some sort of tooth in the chain that pulls the car along. 3 feet. Later, the next tooth came along and grabbed the car again, and with window still down, I gave up as the 3-color foam hit me. I just let go at this point, while all of the cycles did their thing. The car didn't fill up with foam, which might have been amusing, but I had about an inch of water in the car to deal with by the end. About halfway home, the window went up on its own. It's been 20 or so years. The car was fine and is long gone. Now I've never told my wife or anyone till now. At some point it'll make for a good anniversary story. Story 7 from user Quomi 1996. My grandma was 89 at the time and had been an independent woman for over 25 years since my granddad passed. Slowly, she began to get older, and naturally her abilities started to decay. She became hard of hearing. Deaf in the end, was unable to drive herself. She started getting issues with walking. She was an avid hiker before, and other small stuff started to go, due to arthritis in her hands. At some point she got glaucoma and had to use special eye drops. At this point, my dad and my aunts with good intentions had started to fuss about her capabilities to care for herself. Yes, she needed help with things, but they took almost everything out of her hands, including things she was perfectly capable of doing herself. She confided in me that even though she was old, she loved being able to still do things for herself. If she was capable, and was sad that people were treating her like she was incapable. All of a sudden, she needed to get surgery for her glaucoma, and leading up to it, my aunts were making plans of who would take care of her after surgery, whose house she would stay at, because she couldn't stay at her own house by herself. The main issue was the eye drops she had to take after the surgery, and due to the arthritis, it was difficult for her some time before the surgery. We had gotten her a pair of special glasses to help apply eye drops, and she claimed that they worked very well, and she didn't need any help. My aunts asked her to show us how she uses them, but she refused to show us out of pride, I think. So that just convinced my aunts that she couldn't be alone. So one evening I went up to her and asked her to show me how the glasses worked, because I had issues with getting my own eye drops in properly, and wondered if they could help me. Total bees. I don't even use eye drops, and she just lit up and showed me right away, because she wanted to help me so badly. Well, the glasses sort of worked for her, but not good enough that she could be left to do it herself after surgery. However, she had told me how much she wanted to just go home when it was done, and how she really wanted to stay independent. So I lied to my aunts and told them that the glasses worked really well, and she really didn't need any help, and I made a deal with them that I would go to her place to Lul after her. The first few days after surgery, they both live quite far away, so it was easier for me. At the same time, I told my grandma that for work, I had to go to a different office location for a few days for a project. So I would sleep at her house because it was closer that way, I could look after her, and she still felt like she was self-sufficient, with the added bonus that she felt so happy that she could help me by hosting me at her house for a couple of days. I did arrive a few days early and left a few days after. So the dates of my work visit didn't exactly match with her surgery. The look on her face when I asked her to help me with the glasses and when I asked to sleep over was priceless. And I genuinely think she realized at some point at least that I was playing a trick on her. But she was just grateful that I wasn't treating her like a porcelain doll, like the rest of my family. And during my stay there, I just let her do her own thing and arrange her own stuff. I only stepped in twice when she really couldn't handle it, so yeah, that's my thing. Haha. Love my grandma. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and write comments. See you later.